Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Brown here with you on this Friday edition, Sidelines Roundtable. We've got a lot to talk about today. Next couple of hours, we'll be with you. Thanks for everybody listening. We are here, of course, 6 days a week. Is tap on that link and you can sync the show on your iPhone, your Android, your whatever phone. Sync it through your car audio system, your truck, on a boat, in a duck blind, laptop, on your desktop computer, iPad. Sync the show. I'll be joined by Jake Wimberly here in just a moment. ESPN 105.9. The afternoon drive down in Jackson, Mississippi. Followed up after that, Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, checks in out of Oxford, Mississippi. What's going on with Ole Miss? Rebels struggling off to an 0-6 start in baseball, the defending national champions. But if it makes them feel any better, Mississippi State is also 0-6. The last two national champions are combined 0-12 in this early SEC baseball season. Hour number 2, Bo Carter checks in from Dallas. Going to have a lot to say. What's going on out there? Big 12, SEC, talking Final Four this weekend. Billy Ray Valentine, William Halliday, the intern, checks in. Also, Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com. Absolutely love this guy. He's kind of he's from Texas, from White Oak, Texas. You got to love him. Town of 2,500 with a football stadium that seats 5,000. The main thing is we're going to be talking today about teams. How did the Final Four end up like this? You've got 4 teams: Florida Atlantic, UConn, Miami, coming in here. I think a lot of people are, I guess you could say, San Diego State is the most veteran team, but UConn is a blue blood. The other 3, first time ever that this has happened. I think it's exciting. And people that say, well, where's Carolina? Where's Duke? Well, they didn't make it. They weren't good enough. That's the free market. Hey, you got a business that acts out of line, doesn't follow the rules, has a bunch of idiots that run it, and they fail. They fail. So what? Let them fail. Same thing in sports. If North Carolina, if Duke, Kentucky can't make the Sweet 16, can't make the Final Four, that's their own fault. It's not ours. I can assure you of that. But I think the biggest question that I have when I watch the national talking heads, Seth Greenberg, the self-appointed apologist for Duke and some of these schools. I love him as an analyst, but come on, man. Oh boy, I don't want to sound like that. You got to be serious. Look, we know the officials can affect a game, and it is frustrating, but not the entire game. There's going to be a few calls that are missed. We totally understand that. I think that is a major problem. All right. But don't blame the entire game on that. Okay. So, if people want to look at it like that, that is absolutely their right. And I don't see, in my opinion, any problem with criticizing officials, but the entire, just because Duke isn't there because they weren't that good. Miami won the ACC this year with a 15-5 record. That's, and I think the ACC traditionally is the best basketball conference. This year, I'm going to give that nod to the Big 12 or the Big East. The SEC, I thought, was the second best in the regular season, but you've got to look and see how teams do in the NCAA tournament. Well, yeah, the SEC had 8 teams invited. 3 made it to the Sweet 16. All 3 lost. Tennessee to Florida Atlantic, Alabama to San Diego State, and Arkansas lost to UConn badly. UConn started out this season as the best team in college basketball. No question. They were number one. Then they went into a 5 or 6 game losing streak in the Big East. That's a tough conference. They did not lose a single game outside of their conference. People need to remember that, okay? You play tough competition, it's going to prepare you. I would think that the SEC's teams would have been prepared really well. Alabama, you know, if you're going to tell me that Brandon Miller is a lottery pick, you know, is going to declare going to be one of the top players taken, you know, he's 8 of 41 in the NCAA tournament. That's about the worst ever for any player with 35 or more attempts in March Madness. Jake Wimberly is with us right now, ESPN 105.9 Afternoon Drive in the bold new city, the capital city, Jackson, Mississippi. And Jake, once again, the weather forecast for up here in Memphis and down in your area on a Friday, it's unbelievable, is possibility of strong storms, hail, gusty winds, and possible tornadoes. And, you know, last Friday, late Friday night, early in Saturday morning, when Butch Thompson, Auburn's baseball coach, was on with us Saturday morning, he's from Amory, Mississippi. And he said, you know, my town got hit, but also over in the Delta and Rolling Forks. And I know that area well. I hunt in Lambert. But, man, let's everybody pay attention to your weathermen. I don't know what your forecast is, but we got a lot going on. Sports, big time, college baseball, spring practice, the Final Four. And, Jake, your opinion on these teams in the Final Four. Just let's say, and you're not a casual observer, you're a sports junkie and have a great show, but just to the average fan out there, why wouldn't you be excited about 3 of the Final Four teams being there for the first time in school history? I love it. I mean, I think it's great, you know, in terms of excitement. Are you a fan of first time ever teams? I think
yeah, and I hope you can hear me. I got a little bad connection here.
Okay, yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Okay. Little connection issue there. But 3 of these Final Four teams are there for the first time ever. That's Florida Atlantic, San Diego State, first time ever. I think Miami, this definitely their first time ever. UConn, God, this is probably their 12th or 13th Final Four. They will be going for their 5th national championship. So, I mean, that's going to be fun to watch. Jim Larinaga is an excellent coach at Miami. Last year, they got to the Elite 8 with a starting lineup that included 4 guards. So, you know, you say, how do you do it with 4 guards? Well, it's not, I don't think that's unusual at all. It's the style of play. But 17 years ago, on the exact same date last Sunday, which was March 26th, he got his George Mason team in the Final Four. Jake, let's try it again. Are you a fan of the Final Four this year, even though the so-called heavyweights aren't there, and you've got 3 first-time ever schools in the Final Four?
Yeah, you know, and sorry about the connection there.
Okay.
I am personally, I like it. I mean, I like to see new faces and new people, but we were talking about this all week long on my show is, you know, we've kind of got this perception versus reality thing going on in sports. And it's always that way in that, you know, we want to see the Cinderellas. We love to see the Cinderellas, especially in the first round or 2 of the NCAA tournament. But then when you look at the reality of it, most people really don't want it. They think they want it. If you don't believe it, just look at the ticket prices. The women's Final Four earlier this week, prices were higher than the men's Final Four. They're expecting a massive TV ratings drop this week. People want the underdog when it's early. and then things like TCU and Georgia happen, and then people complain about it. We just can't be happy as people. But yes, to answer your question, I'm a fan of it. I think it's amazing stories in this Final Four. When you look at the age and the experience of FAU, you look at what San Diego State's been able to do. UConn, I consider them a blue blood. Some may not. And then what the University of Miami has done, that John Ruiz money starting to pay off down there in Miami.
Well, you're right. And I think that I would compare that to people that say they want to live out in the country and they get a house out in the country or a cabin and they live out there and, they go through one winter and having to cut firewood and go out there and let's say they want to get 50 head of cattle. You say, is that enough? They say it's 50 too many. And they can't wait to get back to the city. Or we've all known people that have left from Memphis or Jackson that moved down to 30A, down to Destin, and they get really tired of the beach in a hurry. But Jake, I love this, what's going on. Jim Nantz last week at the end of the Miami game, which was a great comeback against Texas, he said he embraced the moment. And again, 3 of these teams are there for the first time ever. Who's your pick to win it all? You got to have one. I got 2, but I got 1.
Yeah, I think you got to look at UConn. You look at the experience UConn has, you look at the talent that they have, and typically that kind of rises to the top in something like this. But, I like UConn, but I could see, San Diego State plays really good basketball. They play good defense. They get after the boards. But I'd go UConn 1 and then probably San Diego State 2.
What about, San Diego State? People forget back in March of 20 when the virus shut a lot of things down, the NCAA tournament being one. They were a 31 win team. And Dutcher, the coach, he recruited a lot of the Fab Five players with Steve Fisher. He's been around. This guy's a hell of a coach, but he's in the Mountain West. You think maybe it's because nobody was familiar with them. Most of the time they're playing at night. People have gone to bed. That caught people by surprise. But you'd think Alabama would have been prepared for physical play, having played in the SEC.
Yeah, I think playing in the Mountain West, playing on the West Coast is one of those, is one thing. And then, you talk about this general public. The general public typically, and this is what's going to be interesting to see when they expand the tournament to 90, 96, 98, whatever we're going to hit this expansion number. How much people will actually pay attention in the regular season? Because right now people aren't paying attention in the regular season. People kind of dial in and start to dial in, especially, down here in the South around January, February, as we get closer to March. So I think it's just, we look up and we look at the bracket and then we say, oh, wow, this team won 30 games or this team won 28 games. As far as Alabama is concerned, I think what you saw there is just the age and experience. And I think you're going to see more of this. Anybody that can put together a team that has a roster of, 24 months together, if you get to 36 months together, that's even better. I think that's what we're seeing now, the effects of the one and dones and things of that nature. This wouldn't have happened 20 years ago. This wouldn't have happened 30 years ago because Duke was running a squad out there that was 2-3 years old. Kentucky, the same thing, 2-3 years old. And that's not taking a shot or taking anything away from what San Diego State or FAU has done. It's just they're able to capitalize now on the nature of college basketball and the way it's set up.
Well, that's something, again, we talked about with Gary Harris, Tide 100.9 yesterday in Tuscaloosa about Alabama. And he said, it used to be if you were good, you were going to be good for several years, just like what you said. Look back what John Calipari did and bringing in a whole recruiting class, number 1 in the country for several years of a bunch of one and dones. Those guys are over on the side. If they're not playing, looking at their iPad. And they're looking at their stats. That's part of this narcissistic generation. They're not really good teammates. And Alabama, that's their 10th Sweet 16, but they've never gotten to the Final Four. I think this San Diego State team, the first thing people said when we talked about them during the season, really, but during the tournament, they looked a lot like a football team. And what they did to Alabama, they were down by 8, 9 points. Mm-hmm. They fought back. I think sometimes teams are such prohibitive favorites that they believe their own BS. And I think that's, you start thinking you're that good. That other teams out there, they think they're good too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you take a team like Alabama, like you said, they haven't been to the Final Four. They had all the press clippings. They were, kind of right there, for all the right reasons and sometimes the wrong reasons this year, front and center in the news, on Twitter, social media. And then you get in those moments and then you start playing tight. You start playing. We saw this. You mentioned Calipari in Kentucky. We've seen this with them several times where, they're probably the most talented team on the court, but then they just start playing tight. And I think that's what happens when you get a team like San Diego State that's played in a lot of these close games. They put, several years now together, a lot of basketball together. They're not shaking in those moments. And I think that's what's going to be interesting to see this weekend. You've got, the San Diego State team versus FAU. FAU's not shook either. That could actually be the best game of the weekend. Yeah. Not the most high profile game of the weekend, but that could be the best game we see this weekend.
Yeah. And I want to get back when we're going into the break, but when we come back, I want to talk some college baseball. But before we do, another thing that I love about this is you've got a lot of these are teams, and we know the virus year, it doesn't seem like people graduate anymore. Everybody's got guys that have been there 4 or 5 years. Some have a lot more than others, but I wonder, I don't know when Kentucky's going to be a power again, because they recruit great players. They had Oscar Sheboy. They've, Xavier Wheeler is leaving, and he's looking for sympathy about, the criticism he took. Jake, isn't that kind of obvious when you sign up with Kentucky? You know what you're getting into. You're living in a fishbowl. I mean, grow up.
Yeah, I mean, if you're signing with Kentucky, Duke, Kansas, any of the big time programs in college basketball, North Carolina, that's kind of part of the deal. That's what you're signing up for. And you see this a lot of times. Heck, we even saw it in the NFL. I mean, I believe a few weeks ago, it may have been a month or two ago, a time kind of runs together. Mac Jones was complaining privately about being criticized in New England.
Yeah. Hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. Exactly. Coming from Alabama, you know what it's like. We'll be right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
Jake Wimberly's with us, ESPN 105.9, the afternoon drive in Jackson, Mississippi. And Jake, Mississippi State and Ole Miss, but college baseball. I always like to say right now, the center of the baseball universe is the state of Mississippi, but both schools winless, 0-12 combined. And again, number one, that shows you how tough the SEC is. But where do you see, light at the end of the tunnel? It's not an oncoming freight train for, let's start with Mississippi State, because 2 years ago, they're on top of the world, and they struggled last year, did not even make either tournament. How does that happen at a school like Mississippi State?
Man, Rob, I think it's a convoluted situation. There's a lot of moving parts with this. You did see Mississippi State play better last night against South Carolina. Yeah. You ended up losing the ball game. Chris Lemonis gets ejected. Obviously, you can tell, he knows what's at stake here. Yeah. I think you got to go point at a couple different things. One, injuries has been a part of that, but I try not to point too much to injuries because everybody has injuries. Everybody has problems. Two, I think there's been some misevaluation of talent by this staff. And then three, you got to question, some of the guys on the staff, maybe Lemonis, maybe not. But I know it's a very tricky situation. And here's the problem. Here's the rub is, teams move and shake. They go to like Mississippi State, you won a championship. then you may fall back. I mean, Ole Miss is seeing that. We'll get to them in a minute. And you're not going to be able to sometimes keep that level of play, but it's the way Mississippi State is losing. They're losing by football scores. I mean, when you lose 17-3, 26-6, when you're throwing football number losses on the field in baseball, that's a massive problem. Losing 17-3 in baseball, you might as well be getting beat 55-6 in football.
Yeah.
So it's a head scratcher. It's a problem. And, it's going to be interesting to see, how much he can get out of this team. I mean, this team is probably not going to be able to turn it around and get to the SEC tournament. They're going to miss both tournaments again. How do they finish? What does recruiting look like? It's a lot of questions. The fan base is flabbergasted by it, as they should be. Again, you're not going to stay on top. You're going to take a step back, especially in a league like the SEC with what LSU's doing in Tennessee and South Carolina, and even it's just a deep. You could argue, Rob, that the SEC is deeper in baseball and it even is in football. But it is a problem when you're losing 17-3.
Well, you look at Auburn in Georgia. They come back to one. It's a very close game, and they give up 16 runs to Georgia in one inning on the game. Just how does that happen? But they won the series, but you lose a game, you get run ruled. And opening weekend in the SEC, we had 5 sweeps. And that's I don't know. And you've got Florida, you've got Tennessee, got swept opening weekend. So this is a brutal league. Ole Miss, let's talk about Mike Bianco, defending national champions. They again, there's nowhere to hide. Where do you see them finding a way out of this hole?
Got to get younger guys more playing time, really. I mean, they lost a lot off that team. Losing Elko last year was a big deal. You lose leadership like that. I think they've just got to grow up. I think they're in a little bit better situation than Mississippi State is. They're not getting beat like Mississippi State's getting beat. Now, a loss is a loss, but to me, there is a quality of victory and a quality of a loss. Ole Miss looks to be in a little better situation. You could see them maybe turning this thing around and making a run for the SEC, tournament, so to speak. But it looks like it's going to be a long year in the state of Mississippi, and you're going to see a lot of people check out and head straight to football.
Yeah, and you got spring practice underway. Let's start. I'm going to focus on Mississippi State. First-year coach Zach Arnett, but he's been there as defensive coordinator, knows the players. Some left, got some new guys coming in. We talk about it, but what Mike Leach did for 3 years on offense, nobody can duplicate that. He's gone. Zach Arnett will do his thing. But what do you expect them to do to maximize and get everything they can out of Will Rogers' arm?
Well, by all accounts, everything I'm hearing out of Starkville in spring practice is Will Rogers looks the part, looks better than he did even last year. And Will Rogers has been a pretty darn good quarterback in the league over the last couple of years. I think you're going to see this offense. One of the things they're doing right now is having to reteach this offensive line, which they say they're actually catching on pretty well. You go from Joe Moorhead to Mike Leach. That obviously changes your offensive line totally, from the splits, the way that you play, primarily pass blocking, to now you got to go back, shorten the splits, get into more run blocking mode, run and pass. So I think what they're going to be able to do is they're going to be able to maximize, believe it or not, a run game. And do pretty well with that. That's starting to develop in Starkville again. And it's hard to believe that you think, okay, we got to restart a running game. That's what you do when you come off the air raid like that. But they're still going to throw the ball. They're still going to be, pass heavy, but not as pass heavy as what Mike Leach had. So, I think Will Rogers, a lot of rollout passes from what I hear, and I say a lot, they're adding that element to it, try to get him on the move a little bit more. He's not a guy that's going to break a defense down and rip off a 20-yard run or anything of that nature, but maximize that. And then the tight end position is coming back into play. So it's a different type of offense that Mississippi State's going to run. Still some air raid concepts, but you could say that with a lot of offenses, most offenses nowadays. But you have to think Mississippi State's in a good situation with Will Rogers. He's played in a lot of different offenses, from high school coming into college, and then now, his what is going to be his last year at Starkville. So I think he'll be fine.
Yeah. And when you think about Will Rogers, looking ahead to his NFL prospects or whatever, how high do you think he'll go? I mean, he's set a lot of records. He was in a record-setting kind of offense, but you see him being a big-time pro prospect? I do.
I think he's got the opportunity to. I mean, when you look at next year's kind of class of who's coming out, obviously Caleb Williams is going to be coming out. Drake May at North Carolina is going to be coming out. Bo Nix at Oregon, which I never thought I would say that during his time at Auburn, but he has really turned his game into a much better game out on the West Coast. So yeah, I think Will definitely has an opportunity to play, and I would compare him to his Brandon High School alumni, Gardner Minshew, and that Gardner was able to go from Mike Leach's offense in 1 year. He's still in the NFL. Now, Gardner is obviously not a Patrick Mahomes. He's not a Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, but Gardner's in the league. He's, now on his third team with the Colts. So, Will, a bigger quarterback than Gardner Minshew, probably a little stronger arm than Gardner Minshew, and Will definitely understands football. So, yeah, I could see a situation where Will comes in and he's probably, depending on this year and how his pro day and the combine and all that shapes out for him, 3rd to 6th round pick, somewhere similar to Minshew, and landing on the squad, and we'll see what happens.
And speaking of two other ones real quick, just a couple of minutes before you go, you look at Bryce Young, the measurables at the combine and pro day, he's 5'10" and change. Same height as Stetson Bennett IV. And I've been a big fan of Stetson Bennett IV all along. And I think Bryce Young is one of the best players I've ever seen. Might be the best player ever to play at Alabama to not win a national championship ring, him or Sean Alexander. But all that being said, and Tony Barnhart was on with us yesterday, and he said maybe some of the stuff off the field, like the knucklehead deal out in Dallas, and look, we've all done stupid stuff, but strictly based on his on-field performance. How do you say that Stetson Bennett is not a first-round top-notch guy compared to Bryce Young? They both played tough competition and both won a lot of games, but Stetson's got 2 national championship rings.
He does have 2 national championship rings. Stetson Bennett really impressed me the last 2 years. I honestly didn't think he had the salt a couple of years ago. They got dust rolled in that SEC championship game against Alabama, twice that year. I think 2020 against Alabama. Comes back the next year. Florida does the same thing, but then he's able to come back and win the 2 national championships. For me, what I want to see, the difference in Bryce Young, obviously Bryce Young is a guy that got Alabama out of a lot of bad situations. They had to really put the team on Bryce Young last year. Some of the plays he made, you guys saw it, like you said. I mean, he is slippery good. He's unbelievably good. What I want to see out of Stetson Bennett is, how does he perform on a team that is on even ground with other teams? And what I mean by that is every time Stetson Bennett got off the bus on Saturday in the fall, he had the best roster around him. And he made plays. You got to give him credit for that. So how does he perform at the next level? Again, I think Stetson Bennett probably lands somewhere around 3rd round, 4th round pick. And we'll see what happens. Again, for him, I think it's going to be a lot like some of these other quarterbacks. It's going to be about fit and about the team he gets on and then who they have around him.
Yeah, I like what you said. I mean, 3rd or 4th round, as opposed to people used to say not even drafted, and then maybe 7th round, free agent, whatever. But you cannot argue with his measurables and what he did at the combine and pro day and all that stuff. But look, hey, man, love having you on here. Look forward to having you on. Hopefully you can join us next week. Great coverage of what's going on in Mississippi. Next time I want to talk some more Southern Miss and what's going on there and some of the other schools. But hopefully Ole Miss and Mississippi State, they're going to turn it around in baseball. But how do people follow you and listen to your great show? And you put a lot of really good stuff out on social media.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, you can just find me on Twitter at Jake Wim, JakeWim. And, of course, you can stream our shows on the zone1059.com if you're outside the listening area. If you're coming through the state of Mississippi, just turn it on 105.9 on the FM dial. And, yeah, absolutely, Rob. We'll do it again next week. I hope you guys have a great weekend.
Okay, you too. Stay safe.
Right,
that is Jake Wimberly, man, down in the bold new city, home of Christy and William Rourke, 2 of our listeners. They live in Memphis now, but they're from the bold new city. It is Yancy Porter will be on with us in just a second, Rebel Yell Hotline. And golly, you win a national championship. And if you're a fan of a school that's won a national championship in any sport, you're on top of the world. And then all of a sudden, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4, 5, 6 go by. Don't keep looking out of the rearview mirror. Nothing kills a program more quickly than apathy. So Jake, referenced the fact that Mississippi State fans are flabbergasted. I love that term. How can this be so bad? But playing well, when you start talking about we played well in a loss and another loss and another loss, it wears on you. You know that. Coaches make a lot of money. They're paid a lot of money, but they're human. They feel the pressure. But I do think that as we've continued to pay coaches higher salaries, they have further distanced themselves from any contact with, the fans. And I don't like that. Gary Harris was on with us yesterday, Tide 100.9 WVUA in Tuscaloosa. And I asked him, I said, how's spring practice going at Alabama? And he goes, well, I don't know. They've only had 5 of the 15 practices, and local media can't go. They send us once a week a video of what they want us to see. And but if you're from ESPN or some national media outlet, hey, man, you can come to Tuscaloosa and watch practice anytime. I don't like that. I cannot stand it. And as one of our listeners, J.D. Clampett from Sylacauga, Alabama, said yesterday, yeah, doggy. I remember back when the local media is all you really had. My advice to these media relations directors, I like the old term sports information director. You give me David Housel. You give me Bob Hartley. You give me Langston Rogers any day of the week and double up on Sundays. I'll take those guys any day of the week. They would pick you up at the airport and take care of you, just like our man from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, Monday nights. Catch them, Sports 56 WHBQ and Super Talk Mississippi. You need to listen to this show. They need more time. You don't have enough time for the Rebel Yell Hotline, but we got him right now. Yancy Porter. Yancy, I'm over here at my IT guy's house broadcasting from his studio, and he's from the old country, Hereford, England. You know what he's having for breakfast right now? Steak and kidney pie with grits. Curds and whey. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I don't understand the whole, local media can't go to practices.
Yeah.
I mean, you're trying to keep the fans engaged, and especially in the era of where fans are wanting to stay at home and watch it on the big screen because they're getting outpriced from the market. The last thing you want to do is really, not allow access for them to be excited every day during spring practices or during fall drills. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. And it's not just at Alabama. It's at a lot of schools. And I think we if you're, I'm just going to give you from 40,000 feet above in the 777 flying across the Atlantic. You should thank God that you have Chuck Rounsville, Gary Darby, Harry Harrison, Yancy Porter, people like y'all, local guys that bleed Ole Miss red and blue, because you're always going to be there. That national guy, he's just coming for the free food and drinks. Not always, but you know what I'm talking about. You want the people that are vested in that school, that love your school, to be covering you. And the national media guys are a lot like crows. They're just waiting for somebody to throw some food out of the window on the side of the road. They're not going to go get it on their own, or like vultures. That's what a lot of them are. When they smell blood in the water, they come after you. Y'all are going to be there. Yeah, you're going to report the stories, but you're also going to help them out. And it's okay to do that, isn't it, Yancy?
Yeah, and then you also need that local media to be on your side when you hit a you hit a pothole on the road and things aren't going smooth. You need those guys to be with you to get you through those bad times, and you shut them out, and good luck.
Yeah, and Yancy, I think about this. We just had Jake Wimberly on from down in Jackson, ESPN 105.9, the afternoon drive, and talking to him about what's going on because the center of the universe when it comes to college baseball is the Magnolia State.
Yeah.
Ain't no question about it. You've had back-to-back national champions. Maybe Southern Miss thinks this year is their turn, but there's something in the drinking water, something in the egg bites or the curds and whey. But Ole Miss and Mississippi State are a combined 0-12 in the SEC this year. Slim Pickens just texted me, and he had this to say: "What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on down there in Mississippi?" Yancy Porter, we got about 20 seconds before the break. Help Slim out.
Well, you got 78% of your pitches this year pitched by true freshmen at Ole Miss. That's what's going on with Ole Miss.
You answered that question. 78% from true freshmen.
Yeah.
Wow. Yancy, hold that thought because I didn't know that. That is unbelievable. More with Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, right after this.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Maynard, a fourth-generation residential broker with Hobbs & Realtors. Inventory is still a record low in Memphis, and the demand for more supply is continuing to spread across the Mid-South. Rates are starting to stabilize, which means the number of buyers is picking up daily. If you are interested in taking advantage of today's market, please give me, Eleanor Maynard, your Sidelines Live residential specialist, a call today, and let's discuss your needs. 901-761-1622 or directly on my mobile, 901-219-1905. That's 219-1905.
Yancy, everybody always thinks the best player on the football team is who? The backup quarterback. They also think the guy you recruited and signed most recently with all the stars by his name is the best pitcher. 78.3% of the pitches thrown by Ole Miss, the defending national champions, are by true freshmen. Can we rest that case, Your Honor? Or do you have an objection or two or three?
Look, when your top three returning arms get hurt after the portal has been closed, there's not a whole lot you can do. You got your top setup guy, your top starter, arguably the top ace in the country and arguably the top closer in the country, all get hurt after the portal's closed. And so, you can't go. A lot of people say, why didn't they sign more portal guys? They couldn't do anything about it. It was closed. It was unfortunate these guys had gotten hurt before the portal was closed. I'm sure they would have added some veterans in there to kind of help all these freshmen come along, but it didn't happen that way.
Well, Mike Bianco, this is what his 23rd year now at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
He's in a battle. I mean, look at, Butch Thompson on with us on Saturdays. Joseph Gonzalez, he's going to be out for at least 6 weeks trying to heal up his shoulder. And they asked, Butch Thompson, after an Auburn loss against Georgia Sunday, they got run ruled after winning the first 2 games to win the series. He said, we're not going to make that an excuse. We're not going there. And I like that. And these coaches, they know each other. But
Yep.
it's like trying to find offensive linemen now because of 7-on-7 camps. All the emphasis is put on the skill positions, and we've forgotten the linemen. Ask an architect or an engineer, if you're going to build a 100-story building, you better have a solid foundation. Isn't that right?
Yep. I mean, look, but here's the good news for Ole Miss is 2 of those 3 arms return in mid-April. So, they've just kind of weathered the storm, get some wins somehow, some way, get some wins. Really need to get 2 against A&M. And then they get a chance to play Mississippi State, which State's beaten Ole Miss 6 years in a row in the series. And so it doesn't matter if they come in 0-20. Psychologically, it's been something they've held an edge over Ole Miss these last few years. But if they can somehow get a sweep there, just get it where they're within distance when they do return their ace, when they do return their top setup guy. And then all of a sudden things start changing, right? So, the lights at the end of the tunnel, they just can't dig too big of a hole before they get to that end of the tunnel.
Yeah. All right, let's switch to Ole Miss football.
Yeah.
And Jackson Dart, last year, Yancy, I'm going to start calling you the Harbinger. That's your new nickname, is the Harbinger. 2 weeks before anybody was even talking about it, you were there with the Swami rubbing on your crystal ball, and you said, Chris Beard's coming to Ole Miss. We were like, okay. And I didn't doubt you. You know, I'm old enough to remember those old E.F. Hutton commercials. You know, when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. Yancy, you nailed that one. You've got a basketball savant. And I just think from a historical perspective, it's the biggest name hire ever at Ole Miss. Or it's either that or Lane Kiffin. And look at
Kiffin.
Yeah. And look at one of his assistants. Although Rodney Terry's been at Texas for 9 or 10 years, he just got the job. But just look what John Brady, Coach Brady, says on this show, a proud native son of Macomb, Mississippi. But everywhere Chris Beard goes, he wins. He's a basketball savant. But before we get into that, I want you to give me a Chris Beard update. Or has there been a Chris Beard sighting at possibly the Beacon or Proud Larry's or the candy shop?
Oh yeah, there's been Chris Beard sightings everywhere. He's a lot like AK. He likes to mingle with the people in town, drum up a lot of support, and he's been out and about everywhere around here in Oxford on the square. So there's been no shortage of Chris Beard sightings. You know, Al Pickings, that was at Ole Miss for 6 years under AK, and then went coach with him at Texas Tech. He's back down here at Ole Miss. And then, you know, the hot rumor is that Flanagan, Coach Flanagan there, the assistant coach there at Auburn, is about to join him any day. You know, he was coached, Wes was coached by Beard at Little Rock. And then Wes's older brother, Jason Flanagan, you know, is one, they called him Buck here at Ole Miss, played at Ole Miss under Rob Evans and Rod Barnes. So, you know, there's some ties there to Ole Miss with Beard, with Flanagan. And as you know, Flanagan's a hell of a recruiter. So that would be a big addition for you.
Yeah. And Chris Beard was at, you know, University of Arkansas, Little Rock. And that was a funny story I heard on Rebel Yell Hotline with John Brady talking about, you know, how Chris Beard is. He's a detailed guy, and he's going to recruit with just absolute 110% passion. He's never going to stop. Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football, was on the show with us yesterday. We're talking about recruiting, about, you know, Kirby Smart. I said, I can't think of a better fit than 46-year-old native of Bainbridge, Georgia, or Tifton. And you think back about, he goes, the recruiting fanaticism. He goes, where do you think you learned that from? He said, yeah, you know, Nick Saban. He said, there's a great quote Tony Barnhart referenced yesterday, that recruiting is a lot like shaving. If you miss a day or two, you look like a bum. You can't miss in recruiting. Chris Beard, I'm telling you, I believe this for all teams in the SEC. You can win. There are no ceilings anymore, not with NIL and not with the portal. With a guy like Chris Beard, remember, there are no ceilings. Have you had a chance to sit down and talk with him yet?
You know, not in depth about the recruiting aspect of who he's targeting and stuff like that. But yes, we definitely have introduced ourselves. And Peekins was a good friend of mine. His son Patton and my son played on the same baseball and basketball team and football for about 4 or 5 years here. Very close friends. And I told him then, you're gonna be a star in basketball. This is back when he was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. Now he's a 6'6" shooting guard, and he's the number 47 overall ranked player in the country. So I guess I did the crystal ball did come true on that. But it wasn't hard to tell. He was, you know, a foot taller than everybody else and was dribbling between his legs and around his back at 8 years old. So his skill level was just a twee bit different than my son's. Look, Chris is just, he's just highly motivated, right? he's out to show the world that they're wrong about him. And, when you get a guy that's coming in with a chip on their shoulder in any kind of business, whatever it is, and they're out to prove everybody wrong, and that they're not that person, and that, that's dangerous. And I mean that in a good way. So he is very highly motivated right now, and he's out to prove the world wrong.
Well, and I'll say that about coaches that get second chances. Bruce Pearl is one.
Another great example.
And yeah, you're right. And because people don't like it when other people are trying to write their life story, do they?
Exactly. And Beard's a lot like Pearl, right? I mean, Pearl came in there, he rallies the troops. He loves the fans. He likes the attention. He's like a cheerleader, right? And that's the way Beard is. I mean, he's he's not trying to shy away from anybody. I mean, nothing against Lane Kiffin. He's a great coach, but Lane Kiffin's going to come in through the back door. And with the hoodie on, if he shows up at all. So Beard's coming in the front door, yelling hotty toddy and getting everybody involved. He's just a total different guy. And look, they both work. I mean, Nick Saban's coming in through the back door as well, right? And he's the greatest coach of all time. So it's not like that diminishes. They are. But Beard is just, like I said, the best way that I can describe right now is he is highly, highly motivated, and he's out to prove everybody wrong.
All right, one more thing before we go to football. Recruiting wise, there's the portal. That's kind of like your backup ammo because you've got the portal, and anything is possible with that. But high school, junior college, and the portal combined, is he looking? I'm sure he's got the attention of a lot of the top players in the country. Is there any question about that, Yancy?
Right now, the Oregon center, Khalil Ware, he's kind of the focal point. He's a former 5-star center out of Little Rock, actually. And Beard had recruited him really, really hard through high school. He ended up going to Oregon. And that's kind of, we had talked about it earlier. They got a lot of good guards. Everybody on the team that was on the team has announced they're coming back, but one player right now. So he's been able, first and foremost, to retain a lot of these talented players that Kermit Davis did a good job recruiting.
Yeah, he did.
He got some players there. So he's been able to retain those players, and now he's got to get a couple bigs. And that's where it's going to start is with this portal player from Oregon. He's a 7-foot center, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah. Well, here's a question I have. The big guy, Golden, the center for Florida Atlantic University, started his career at Texas Tech. Was he a Chris Beard recruit?
That's a good question.
I don't know that. I don't know where he started. But I doubt he'd be ready to leave Florida Atlantic with the kind of run they have.
No, I'm not saying that. That's just an example of the kind of talent he recruits and develops. All right, so that's a great update on Ole Miss basketball. Switching to football. We know Jackson Dart was the starter last year, and you, again, the harbinger, Yancy Porter, were talking last year that Kiffin was more likely to go with him as the starter versus Luke Altmaier.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? And he said, yeah, he's more of a gunslinger, that Kiffin likes that type of personality in his quarterbacks. You're bringing in Spencer Sanders, who was at Oklahoma State for 4 years. And I guess sometimes people just want to change the scenery. Maybe he was tired of looking at Mike Gundy's mullet. I don't know. But let me mull that over, Yancy. No, that was funny. Keep your day job, Brown. You're not a comedian. No. But I think, as Coach Pratt used to say to us in our math scurvy class at Christian Brothers High School, competition is the spice of life. And I love that. So you bring it in. a quarterback room, if you don't have legitimate competition, can also go south on you quickly if they know it's all just a head fake, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't think the competition's from Sanders. I think it's from Walker Howard. This quarterback they picked up, the 5-star, quarterback that was a true freshman in LSU and didn't get to play last year. Yeah. This guy, he's going to be special now. Yeah. He's going to be, it's Dart's job. It's Dart's team. He's the guy. He's the leader. He's who the whole team looks up to. Look, Dart's put on about 10 pounds of muscle. His arm's stronger. He's making better decisions. I think he's in line for a really fantastic year this year, and one that will be enable him to go ahead and go in the draft after this year. But those next 3 years after Dart leaves, it's going to be Walker Howard's team, and I got a feeling he's going to be better. He's going to be better than Dart. He's this guy. He's got the strongest arm, throws the best long balls. But it's just the moxie he carries. He's already has those leadership skills. If Dart goes down and something happens last year where they were in a whole lot of trouble this year, they just step from an experience standpoint. They're not going to have it with Walker if Dart went down. But look, Walker Howard's going to be special now. This kid, he's got it right. That it, he's got it. Yeah, I have no idea how he fell down to third-string quarterback there at LSU. If they got two guys better than him for the future, then God bless them.
Well, that's funny. A kid comes in as a true freshman, a 5-star out of Lafayette. Of course, Jamie Howard, his dad, played there for, God bless him, for Curly Hallman. And I will never forget some of those play calls in the fourth quarter, but got an incredible pedigree. And
Carly lived right next door to me growing up in Hattiesburg while he was at USC.
Yeah, and he went to LSU, and it's hard to believe. It started 89 through 94, 6 straight years. Those were the dark ages. 6 straight losing seasons at LSU, and they had more after that. It was just amazing. And they bring in Jerry DiNardo. The magic is back. But they got it going right now with Brian Kelly. But there wasn't
a whole lot of magic with Jerry now. It might have been
no, there wasn't. They had one good season, and that was about it.
It became black magic.
And then they brought Lou Tepper down, with his defense from Illinois. That was a fun one to watch. But I'm just thinking about Lane Kiffin. Look, a guy like him, and it's not unusual for a lot of programs, coaches to be pursued by schools all over the country. Lane Kiffin, is there any problem? Fans, I think, are forgiving. Just win. That's all you got to do, isn't it?
Yeah, I think most of that is blown over. You still see, a smattering of fans still, bitter about that. But, and the whole thing is just that at any university, no alumni can understand why anybody would want to go to any school besides theirs, right?
That's right.
And so, you got to get over your butt heart. This is big time athletics. That's not the first, and it won't be the last. You hope it's not the last, because if it's the last, that means he's not doing well on the field. So, but yes, I would say out of 100% of the butthurt fans, I'd say 80 of them back are in Lane's boat. The question with Ole Miss right now is really on defense. Pete Golding is a heck of a defense coordinator, and maybe just under his tutelage they improved. But you got to remember now, they lost 3 out of their top 4 corners to the portal, which is very strange. They were all, guys that were highly productive. And then their top
hold those thoughts.
quarterbacks.
Yeah. Okay. Hold those thoughts. I want to go back to that portal thing. We're going to take a quick break. Right back. Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline after this.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Maynard, a fourth-generation residential broker with Hobson Realtors. Inventory is still a record low in Memphis, and the demand for more supply is continuing to spread across the Mid-South. Rates are starting to stabilize, which means the number of buyers is picking up daily. If you are interested in taking advantage of today's market, please give me, Eleanor Maynard, your Sidelines Live residential specialist, a call today, and let's discuss your needs. 901-761-1622 or directly on my mobile, 901-219-1905. That's 219-1905.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Todd Rundgren here with Jethro Tull talking Rebel Yell Hotline right now. Jethro, you were giving me here in the jungle, man. You were giving me some cool stats on the portal before we went to the break, and I got distracted. Would you rewind and tell those again because they're very revealing?
Yeah, the problem with the weakness, so to speak, the glaring hole in spring practice is at cornerback. They lost that out of their 4-man rotation there at cornerback. 3 of them went in the portal. They lost their defensive coordinator and their cornerback coach. Those guys recruited those guys, and they bolted. And then the long returning starter, he's out with a hamstring injury this spring. Deontay Prince, and then 2 guys that they got in the portal. One is working on his academics to get eligible, for May, and the other one, he's out with a growing injury. So, they are super razor thin there at cornerback, and that's really been the glaring hole. Now, the good news is that the linebackers they got to fill in, one of them, Austin Keys, that went over there to Auburn, they're looking good. I think the team as a whole, the offense, they look like world beaters, but who wouldn't when you can pass the ball all over the field against guys that are not going to be in the picture next year there at cornerback. So the offense looks super dynamic. The defense up front, they look good. We talked about the defensive front for the last year and a half, and they returned all those guys but one. But you got 3 of those guys that are out. It's the defense. There's a lot of guys out this spring with injuries, and so the offense naturally is ahead of the defense right now.
Yeah, and interestingly, last year Ole Miss had a dozen SEC caliber defensive linemen. If you've got depth on your front 7, you have a chance to win every game. If you don't, you got a chance to lose every SEC game for sure. Let's talk about who all's back, because with a great pass rush, your secondary doesn't have to struggle as much. Without a pass rush, your secondary might lead the team in tackles.
Yeah, and you don't want that to be the secondary this year, this spring, with all the guys that are out with injuries. There's just so many guys. Their top 2 pass rushers are also out right now. Cedric Johnson, their top pass rusher, is out this spring as well. So it just seems like all the injuries are on the defensive side of the ball. But just watching Golden in action and the way he is so hands-on, I really think Ole Miss hit a home run with that hire there to lead that defense. And look, Ole Miss's problem, it doesn't matter how good your defensive line is when you only play a 5-man box, and one of them is a 200-pound glorified safety. So you're really playing 4.5 people in the box. It's hard to stop defenses. They're going to run the ball straight at you. But Golden's come in. He's running a 4-2-5 as his base defense, but he's really running a lot of 3-4 as we saw there at Alabama. So getting that extra player or two inside the box is really going to help out a lot defending the run.
All right, one last question from a listener, Leonard Nimoy, Petal, Mississippi. Leonard Nimoy, he says, and I quote him, to Yancy Porter, I ask you this question. Last year, Ole Miss's schedule seemed to be back-end loaded, got off to a great start. This year, how do you think the schedule shapes up for Ole Miss? An advantage or a disadvantage? Again, a question from Leonard Nimoy from Petal, Mississippi. That's down not too far from where?
Hattiesburg.
Damn right.
A lot.
By the way,
Actually,
do you know that show on? Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, a lot of people from Hattiesburg have flocked to Petal. So, I mean, it's one in the same city. You don't know if you're in one town or the next. That's like Opelika to Auburn.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. But look, the schedule disadvantage. You got to go at Tulane, who's going to be. They were last year, and they returned just about everybody this year. You got to go at Georgia. You got to go at Alabama. You got to go at Auburn. It's brutal. The schedule's brutal. I probably will be the toughest schedule in the country.
Yeah. Wow. That is.
Yeah.
You know what? Teams they surprise you. I mean, there's no question about that. But as long as you got Lane Kiffin coaching quarterbacks, got a chance to win anywhere. And it's going to be fun to watch Todd Golding. What he does. He knows how to recruit. He's got some talent, so it'll be fun. Yancy, tell people. I know you got to get going for a board meeting at the Beacon, but tell people how they can follow you and keep up with you. And of course, the Rebel Yell Hotline. Expand it to several days a week and 2 or 3 hours minimum.
Actually, I've got to go to a presentation, as my wife said. You look much sexier if you added 2 zeros next to your name. So there will be no board meeting. A Beacon board meeting. I got to go make some money. But yeah, you can reach me at Yancy Porter. It's very simple. There on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you want to follow me.
Well, listen, man, nobody covers the Rebels like Yancy Porter. He covers Mississippi like kudzu and cotton without the heat and humidity on this beautiful March 31st. But Yancy, look forward to having you on next week. Thanks so much for your time.
Always, and you and your listeners have a blessed day. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. You too. Bo Carter joins us right now out in Dallas, Fort Worth. Are you in Dallas? Are you in Fort Worth? Are you in Mansfield? Are you in Plano and Richardson? Where exactly are you?
Beautiful North Carrollton, Texas. We can see Oklahoma out our back door over here.
All right, we're going to start correctly saying North Carrollton. So you're close to the Oklahoma border.
We are. We're in Denton. We're actually in Denton County, the home of the NIT champion North Texas Mean Green from last night. So it's quite a fun place.
Heck yeah! Well, so you can see the Red River.
Yes, we're not too far. And the casinos, of course, the casinos in the Red River.
Absolutely. How's the fishing on the Red River? Bass fishing, no trout though.
I don't. You can just about wade across it. Sometimes, Rob.
Yeah.
So it's probably. Then we may have some, northern Washington fish coming down the river. Whatever, perch, everything else.
Yeah.
But it depends on when it's flooding.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it's wild is one of our friend of mine, J. Rodney Scroggins Jr. the third. I love that name. When you cross from Arkansas into the state of Oklahoma on Interstate 40, the first sign you see, welcome to Oklahoma, but is 10 Killer State Recreation Area in the Ouachita Mountains, or as correctly, the Ouachita Mountains. That's incredible. Okay. All right, Bo, your thoughts right now. Again, you were ahead of the curve weeks ago in raving about the Florida Atlantic short-eared owls. That you were right. 31-3. They only had one win over a team that qualified for March Madness out of 68. Okay. Texas, Baylor, and Kansas all played 14 or more schools that qualified. And maybe their problem was they played each other so much they only knew the Big 12 style. They did play the SEC and some other games, but Florida Atlantic, San Diego State, Miami. Now, UConn is a heavy hitter, tied for number 6 all time with 4 national championships, 3 under Jim Calhoun and 1 under his player Kevin Ollie. They could get 5 this year, but if you're the sports information director at San Diego State or Florida Atlantic, what's been the toughest challenge having to deal with the media crush of the tournament, specifically the Final Four over in Houston?
I think you're just like you're saying, it's the first time for 3 of them. And, they're sort of all of them are the darlings, although, Miami's won national championships in football fairly frequently. But San Diego State's really an amazing story too. The Mountain West had different, BYU and different teams in there, but this is the first time in 25 years they've actually had a Mountain West team in the Final Four too. So, with Memphis and Louisville, Conference USA had have some history in the Final Four, but the Florida Atlantic story's been one of the great stories of all time in men's basketball.
Well, the fact that they'd only played one team in the tournament, that tells me, and I want to get your opinion, whether you agree with me or not, that Conference USA, like a lot of the non-Power 5 conferences, plays really good basketball. They just don't get the credit for it because the talking heads who write the narrative and want their narrative to always come true, and if it doesn't come true, they come up with a myriad of excuses. They're undervaluing. These are deep discount value stocks per se, in a that pay a 5% dividend and haven't missed a dividend payment in 150 years. Don't sell San Diego State short. John Hartwell's been talking about him. You've been talking about him. And when you went to that Conference USA tournament, did you walk away going, Florida Atlantic could go deep into the tournament? Did you feel that way?
Yeah, really did. They've got the good guard play. We're on a Zoom call with Larry Connolly, the longtime former Kentucky great and longtime broadcaster, and he really likes them too. He's guard play. The guard play. They've got really quick guys. They've got a 7-1 guy in the middle that sort of clogs everything up. And Dusty May, the head coach, was a manager, but he was under Bob Knight for 4 years, so he knows and he's from Indiana. He's got those good blood. Good bloodlines or whatever too, but it's sort of been, and they play in a 3,000 seat bandbox arena down there, and they've been flying under the radar all year.
They really have. And who would have taken these odds back at the beginning of basketball season that 2 teams from Dade County and Palm Beach County would be in the Final Four, along with another one from San Diego, the Beach Boys. I mean, this is an incredible story. Again, you being the great writer, SID, Emeritus, National Football Foundation, Baseball Writers of America. Give me your lead story right now for this Final Four. If you're writing for, say, a big national publication.
Like you were saying, I think just the fact that, they're calling it the theme now is the US won Final Four with the 2 Florida teams right along the main old US 1 highway down there in South Florida. But it's sort of can UConn beat the newcomers or whatever, or can the 2 Florida teams show that basketball is played outside the city of New York and Kansas and California's already in there, but outside of the hotbeds, the Big 10. Big 12, et cetera. So it's and Rob, you made a good point too. With them not having to beat each other up, but I mean, Conference USA wasn't a pushover this year. Charlotte won the CBI. North Texas won the NIT last night. They're calling it now. They're trying to get the triple crown. If Florida Atlantic wins the NCAA, they get the 3 major tournaments postseason. But but by playing a little bit less demanding schedule, these guys didn't wear themselves out, and they were really fresh for postseason. Boy, they've shown it too. Yeah.
Well, we were talking with former LSU coach John Brady who got them to the Final Four back in 2006, the same year, because he was talking about it on the show earlier this week, that Jim Larrañaga got Miami to the Final Four. And, it's funny that we hear the grind of the schedule, but in reality, these kids are playing 2 games a week, and they talk about this guy's a lottery pick, man. He's ready to go to the league. He's played 3 games. He's 18 years old, and my response is, are you kidding me? 2 games a week. If you can't handle that, you're not ready for the NBA, because they may play 4 games in a week. You might play 5. Think about it. And John Brady's right. The coach, he said, we hear so often about this guy or that guy's a lottery pick. He's a top 3 pick. He goes, I've coached a lottery pick or 2 in my day of coaching. They don't go out and put up 6 points and 2 rebounds, on a given night. They're doing 20 and 12 night in and night out. They're consistent. And you look at these teams that try to basically fool their way through. You can't do it. Experience, there's a big difference in being an 18-year-old and a 23-year-old. Look at teams when they play BYU. I mean, these guys have got 2 years of being on their mission. I mean, I don't know how many of y'all ride a mountain bike or ride. 2 years of riding around on a mountain bike, getting a lot of doors slammed in your face. You get pretty tough. You get pretty mean. You put an 18 or 19-year-old lineman going up against a 23-year-old BYU, you're going to think about that in basketball. This is another example of true teams. Do you happen to have the rosters available? I'm just curious of the level of experience. San Diego State, Miami, UConn, Florida Atlantic.
I don't have them in front of me, but you're right. I mean, they're junior, senior teams, and the one and done. Kentucky, classic, and when UCLA in a way too. They've signed these superstars, and the kids know. In fact, they've got an AT&T commercial, if you've seen it, where they're turning in their iPhones or whatever. And one kid said, I need mine for you. And this other kid said, well, I might stay around for 4 years with the Kentucky mascot. They're all wearing big blue and the AT&T Lily or whatever. But no, it's you've got the superstars, but you've got some inconsistency there, because Rob, you hit your 18, 19-year-old kids, they're going to have an up and down game. And you're just, I know it's got to drive Calipari and some of these coaches crazy.
Well, they tried to do it with the one and dones, and it's just hard. And I always look at body language. That's something my wife Mildred got me hooked on, is watch the body language when things aren't going well. Mm-hmm. And if you look over on the bench in a basketball game that Kentucky loses, I'm going to go back again and again and again to the loss last year to St. Peter's, a 2 versus a 15. I looked over on that bench, and I really didn't see a lot of guys upset. I saw maybe Wheeler and Oscar Tshiebwe, or as I hear some people, I don't think they ever took an English class, Oscar Tshiebwe. God bless. That's kind of like the Yangtze River. Good God. Go back to school. Study English. I suggest word wealth, perhaps. I'll never thank you, God, for Brother Stephen Schonhoff, Fratre Scholarum at Christian Brothers High School. If you didn't use words the right way and you misspelled them, you might be doing push-ups. You might be leaning against the wall. You might be wearing a dunce cap. We're old enough to remember a dunce cap. Yes. You know what? There's nothing wrong with a little humility. It'll wake you up. Mm-hmm. We're going to be right back with the Oracle of North Carrollton, Texas, Bo Carter, after this message.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
Ernest Tubbs here with you right now, and we are Lester Flatt is with us as well as Billy Ray Valentine, the intern, William Halliday, the Auburn Plainsman, Memphis native, MUS grad, Bubba's son. By the way, Bo, I get the Auburn Plainsman online delivered every day in my email mailbox, and I read one of William's stories, and I was just looking for things to tear him apart on, because I don't believe in just, saying, hey, great job if you don't do a great job. I don't pass out compliments freely. You shouldn't do that. That's because you're shrinking to make other people around you feel less insecure. It's a disservice to everybody. Damn good work, William. I mean, that's really good use of grammar. It's about Auburn women equestrian 5th straight SEC championship. Greg Williams is my friend, the coach down there. They're going for their 7th, I think, national championship in Ocala, Florida, the hometown of Williston. Buddy Martin, GatorBetMedia.com. But that's very good stuff, William, writing for the Plainsman. And you know what, Bo? He's already learning. You don't get to just write about the basketball team, the football team. You may be doing a story in sports about the person who puts the shoes on the horses. But when you do it, make it the best story ever written about the guy shoeing the horses. Isn't that right, Bo?
That's right. Hey, William, good to have you here. And great. I mean, I get the Plainsman every day. Thank you so much. Really good stuff. When I started at Vanderbilt, the freshmen always had to cover the rugby and the soccer team, so club team. But you got to meet the rugby team was entirely former Tennessee football players who were in med school at Vanderbilt. So every time somebody got knocked out on the field, they were there to administer first aid. So Auburn's got a club rugby team. You need to go out and cover them, William. It's the hardest thing to ever. I mean, poor guys getting mauled every game.
I think there's more injuries in rugby teams in high school than you see in high school football.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know, William, if you played rugby or not, but God, that's a brutal sport. William, all right, let's get your thoughts, man. You've got the Final Four, Florida Atlantic and San Diego State, the Aztecs against the Owls, and then you got the Huskies of UConn against the Hurricanes. And that mascot, what is he, a gale force wind, or it's a pelican, or what is it? Is it a cormorant, a frigate bird? What I don't know what that mascot is, but that's a good basketball team. Give me your pick to win it all and why, William. Give us a lead.
My pick to win it all is UConn. The reason I pick UConn is because they're going for their 5th championship in the past 25 years, I believe. And they've been there. They know the experience, or they have the players that they need. They are a top 3 offensive team and a top 10 defensive team. And the past few champions that have been both those things. And that's why I believe they'll win. Yeah.
Bo, you know what I like about that? If you're writing a story, don't just give me a swag, scientific wild ass guess. Tell me why. That's a term my dad uses about measuring and looking at a building and something like that. And I said, okay, I like that term. But he did a great job of explaining why he thinks UConn will win. Now, I like to bet on games and stuff, a steamer pack of crystals, a 30 pack of Ham's beer or whatever. But I'm getting kind of nervous because everybody can't be right at the same time, at least not very often, Bo. Everybody's picking UConn.
I agree with William. I think they're the favorite going in from past experience. And again, Miami's got, quite athletic. They came from 13 down to beat Texas last week. That's pretty amazing right there. but I think they were like we even correct 22 out of 23 at the line in the second half. That's that'll win some ball games for you. But again, I think they've got they'll have a big fan base down there. Their season. I saw the other day, and y'all can probably verify this, that the ticket scalpers are in the in doldrums right now because the tickets are going for a lot. I think you might be able to get an upper deck seat for $15 or whatever. So if Texas or Houston had been there, that there would have been a $5,000 ticket to make it. But it's
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M, exactly right. So there are three. And Jim Nance is going to finish his career down there. He's kind of hoping his alma mater Houston would be in there, but it's going to be a great. It's very fascinating, the whole thing. Plus, quick sidebar: the women's Final Four is starting in Dallas tonight. LSU, Virginia Tech, a very intriguing Iowa team with Caitlin Clark scoring 41 points, getting a triple double the other day, and South Carolina, which has just been invincible. So we're Dallas is the women's basketball capital of the world for the next 3 days, I guess.
Yeah. Well, South Carolina, LSU from the SEC, Iowa from the Big Ten, and Virginia Tech from the ACC. So that will be fun. Kim Mulkey, unbelievable in year 2 in the Final Four. And we're going to have here in about 7 or 8 minutes, Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com. I don't know, Bo, if you know Olin. Used to write for the Austin American Statesman with Kirk Bowles and covering A&M down in College Station. And William, you're going to love this guy. You talk about Texas high school football. He's from a town called White Oak, Texas. Population 2,500 and a few people here and there that come and go, with a high school football stadium that seats 5,000. That's a town that's got their priorities straight, William. You got to love that. But Olin is there's something about the Texas sports writers that are great storytellers. William, Bo and I know who this guy is because we grew up with him. Do yourself a favor, William. Here's a homework assignment. Get pen and paper handy and do it before midnight. This offer expires at midnight. Go look up on YouTube Charles Kuralt, the great CBS correspondent. Dave Cody's listening out there right now, looking at the sun coming up on Mount Baker there in Bellingham, Washington, 10,726 feet. And go and do this, look up Charles Kuralt. And I think one of Charles Kuralt's sons used to work at KTBC Channel 7, where Dave was a sports anchor 36 years in Austin. But William, Charles Kuralt would get in an RV and just go around the country and do stories on people that lived off the grid, okay? You want to find great stories, and I think Bo would agree. Mm-hmm. Be willing to go off the grid, and find what makes a great player who he is. And William, we have Ben Trupas on the show with us a couple of days ago. Ben's from Swainsboro, Georgia. Played for Steve Spurrier and Ron Zook at Florida, 5 years in the NFL. From a little country town called Swainsboro, Georgia. And in a couple of little blocks in that little small town that he grew up in, 4 or 5 of him and his friends in a town of less than 7,000 people between Augusta and Vidalia, Georgia, is Swainsboro, Georgia. And two little blocks in that town, there were 5 guys like Ben that all played in the SEC. Mm. Those are the cool stories people are looking at. But look up Charles Kuralt. I mean, he would go out and find some guy in this small town of Swainsboro, Georgia. Ben Troop grew up playing with other kids every day, running outside. Unlike kids today whose parents have to push them out the door, parents had to hunt their kids down. They were playing and running outside, healthy. Today, Ben Troop, blah, blah, blah. Go off the grid and do some cool stories. William, if you were going to write the next story and they said, William, think of something, but here's your limits, okay? It's got to be about an athlete that played, 30 years ago or longer, and it's a football player, and he has to be from a small town. Know your history. Could you go out and do a story like that? You got anybody that comes to mind? A legend that's still living?
Well, I feel like the Auburn Plainsmen have given us some people that we could go interview that have played in the past at different high schools in Auburn. I'm sure I could do that if I wanted to.
You know, and no, he wouldn't qualify, but you ever heard of Usi Umanyura or DeMarcus Ware?
I have heard of DeMarcus Ware.
Yeah, he got inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. At 6'3", 187 pounds, at Auburn High School, was not recruited by the Auburn Tigers. Went to Troy, played for Larry Blakeney down there. Of course, played for the Cowboys, had a phenomenal NFL career. Obviously, he's going to the NFL Hall of Fame. Those are the cool stories that I love to read about. And, everybody's always, it's like soccer with 6-year-olds. Remember those games, William? And you remember them, Bo, when you were a kid and you got kids and grandkids? Everybody's chasing the ball. William, you know who you want to be? You want to be that one player that's out there on their own, not because you're sitting there in the grass, pulling weeds because you're bored, but you want to be going where the next great story is. That's Bo, would you agree? I mean, that those stories are more fun to read than the group think?
Yes, and William, in line of our previous discussions too, Suni Lee is coming to Fort Worth for the NCAA Gymnastics Championships in 2 weeks. So you need to accompany the Auburn Gymnastics team. This is your last chance. But no, getting back to your point, Rob, you do want to be the kid out there. And I got to compliment the Plainsmen too from the stories I read. They're very in-depth. The great thing about working for college media, you're not, like Williams told us before, they may say we need 700 words or whatever, but you can really, with an online edition too, you can write your ears off or whatever too, and get good quotes. Williams done good background research on the stories he's written too, and heck, they had a 1,000-word story in the Auburn North Alabama baseball game, the 14-1 baseball game. But you get to talk to players afterward. It's really it's a great learning experience.
It is, and William, here's something really cool. Dave Cody, God, Dave is incredible. When he gets rid of his Android and gets an iPhone, we want to get him on here more and more. But he said we used to attend Baylor, Texas games, the reporters, covering them, just to see what Kim Mulkey was wearing. She threw that coat before the first time out. He said, I saw her at Baylor a bunch when they played Texas. I bet Bo has some Mulkey stories from the Big 12. He said Baylor used to play in the heart of Texas Coliseum, which was a rodeo barn, and Jody Conrad would wear a long coat on the sidelines because it was so cold in there. It's a
true story.
I mean, the color commentary that I get, but I love it. But William, again, he just talked about a 1,000-word story or whatever. When you're writing a story, I like your writing style. It flows really well. Do you go back and look at punctuation, sentence structure to avoid run-on sentences and all that good stuff? I'm sure that was ingrained in your mind by your English teachers all throughout your education before you got to Auburn, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
They drilled that in us at MUS.
And a lot of the stuff, Bo, wouldn't you agree that we read today online, it's like people just throwing a pile of spit against the wall and hoping it sticks.
That's what when we taught journalism in North Texas, and Williams heard this quite a few times already, but this is what distinguishes you from your regular online rant people, that he's a trained writer. He knows how to use transition phrases between paragraphs, and using proper use of quotes. Quote, so and so, comma, close quote, said Rob Brown. To the AP, they learn AP style. That's drilled into them all the way in every class. So it's the young people like William that are trained in this are really going to be ahead of the curve from everybody. It really aggravates you to see the online stuff with the typos, the grammatical. I'm getting more like my 9th grade English teacher every week. But it's really good to be trained and to write in an intelligent way.
It is. And William, we're going to bring Olin Buchanan on right now, texags.com. Again, Bo Carter out in North Carrollton, Texas. Olin, I've been incorrectly saying he was from Dallas, but he lives in North Carrollton. He goes, we can see the Red River from my back window. And we've got a young journalist in training, William Halliday, Billy Ray Valentine, the Auburn Plainsman, a freshman. We've been talking to him about the importance of, journalism and writing and storytelling. Before you came on, I just said, these storytellers. And Dave Cody just was sending us stories about Jody Conrad wearing the long coat in the old Texas Coliseum. And what is it about y'all in Texas that they teach you, or is it just you're from White Oak? But the storytelling is a God-given art. And William, take notes, because here comes the Olin Buchanan of TexAgs.com, and he's a lot of fun and he's very smart.
Well, you're hyping me up too much. I think, first of all, Bo Carter, Carrollton, frankly, is that. Dallas is everywhere. And Bo he may live in Carrollton, but the world is his home.
That is true.
Incredible admiration for Bo Carter.
Thanks.
Here. Known him a long time. Storytelling. I think it's just there may be a certain gift to it, but it certainly can be attained as well. And I think a lot of it just comes with listening to other people, and then experience. People with the best stories are usually old people because they've lived through a lot.
Yeah. Well, but you're with TexAgs.com, and you've seen, just like William, you're coming up now in the total electronic age as a freshman writing for the Auburn Plainsman. But Olin, go back. We got about a minute 10 before the break. If you get started, what happened in your career and how you turned what could have been something not good into an unbelievable career that hopefully will go on for another 30 or 40 years.
Well, hopefully, because then I'll be about 100 years old.
There we go.
I got laid off at Yahoo/Rivals. They were having mass layoffs. I made it for about 4 or 5 years. And I got laid off. I was 50 years old with no college education. I'd been watching ball games for 30 years. Not a big market for that. But I think if people are good in their field, there'll eventually come a place for them. And I did get approached by TexAgs. And I tell people all the time, it's not the most lucrative job I've ever had, but it's easily the best job I've ever had. So I think you stay diligent, you stay optimistic, and you don't wait around.
Yeah.
I went to work at a Publix grocery store while I was still looking for another job.
Hold that thought, Olin. This is where it gets really good. William, this is what you need to be hearing. Real life Olin Buchanan on Sidelines right after this.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Maynard, a fourth-generation residential broker with Hobbs & Realtors. Inventory is still a record low in Memphis, and the demand for more supply is continuing to spread across the Mid-South. Rates are starting to stabilize, which means the number of buyers is picking up daily. If you are interested in taking advantage of today's market, please give me, Eleanor Maynard, your Sidelines Live residential specialist, a call today, and let's discuss your needs. 901-761-1622 or directly on my mobile, 901-219-1905. That's 219-1905.
All right, Grizzlies playing tonight. Nigel gave that. Nigel, our in the South Pacific, and Mike goes to ballot. Yeah. Hold it. You're talking about this career path because, William, this is really an incredible story. Working at Publix from there.
I'm sorry, Rob. You were breaking up a little bit.
Okay. Is this better now? Okay. Yeah. You were working at Publix, and then from there on.
Yeah. Like I said, I got a call from a guy named Hunter Goodwin. Played at Texas A&M. Played for the Dolphins and Vikings, and became a part owner of Texas A&M. He actually played while I covered the Aggies for the Bryan College Station Eagle at one time in my career and said, "We heard you're available. Would you be interested in coming down to interview?" And I said, "Well, of course." And about a week later, I went down to interview. About a week after that, they hired me, and I've been there ever since. I've now worked at Texags longer than any other job I've ever had. I worked at the Austin American Statesman for 11 years and 8 months, and I'm now over 10 years and 8 months. I'm now here 10 years and 9 months. So, but it was, there was some humility there because there was a time I'm in press boxes. I'm rubbing elbows with big shots like Bo Carter. A week later, guys like Bo Carter are coming in and asking me where they can find some apples. Life will take some turns and things like that. And what I did was, I said, I never got a college degree. I've been watching ball games for 30 years. There's, what skill do I have?
Yeah.
And I said, hey, it might be over. It might be over. I looked into some possible jobs. Thought I had one in San Antonio. It didn't work out. So I said, I got to do something. I went to work. I'm not proud. I'm not feeling like I'm too good to do something. I don't mind working hard. And they had offered me at Publix. They hire people on a part-time basis. And if they feel like you're a good worker, then they'll offer you a full-time job.
Yeah.
And the day I got offered a full-time job was the same day that I was asked if I wanted to come down and interview in Texas. And they were great at Publix. They said, hey, you do what you need to do, but just know if you want one, you got a job here. And Texas worked out. And it was funny. I've been a Heisman Trophy voter since 1994. Never attended the Heisman ceremonies until that first year working at Texas, because that was 2012, and that's the year Johnny Manziel won.
Yeah. Well, you brought him good luck, see, Olin.
Well, I thought, you know what? That was like the guy that got a curveball, and I just closed my eyes and swung as hard as I could, and I somehow made contact.
Yeah. William, I know you've got a question or two for Olin, and we're going to talk Texas A&M here in just a minute, but you're a young writer. You just heard that story. No time for a pity party, no time for sitting around. He's just next man up. Olin, that's a great story. But William, jump on in here.
Yeah, well, to be honest, hearing your story, Mr. Olin, makes me now question whether I need a college degree or not for journalism.
Oh no, Bubba, don't. He's going to stay in school. We didn't discourage him.
I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's a great story. One question I have for you is what would you say is probably one of the best stories you've written that I can go maybe read if I can find it? Or one of your favorite.
Well, one of my favorites was now you're too young to remember this. I enjoyed writing it. I'm kind of a wise guy sometimes, and you might recall older guys, not you, William. Like I said, you were too young, but about 10 years ago, Bob Stoops had made a comment about the SEC really wasn't that much stronger than the rest of the conferences. It was just kind of a media creation. So I came up with a column where I had a fictitious phone call from Bob Stoops. And we talked about whether or not, why the SEC wasn't any better, because he said just the good teams are better. The rest of it, and so we got on other subjects and I mentioned like New York City being the biggest city in the world. He said, "What are you talking about? New York City being big? It's no bigger. It wouldn't be any bigger than Norman if it wasn't for all those extra people." So it was just taking the opportunity to have fun with the situation, and I find that your best when you're writing a column. Now, when you're writing a news story, you find out the most pertinent facts and put them and get right to the point and report them. But if you're writing a column, I think you try to put your personality into it, because I think people respond to that. And but there is different styles of writing. Game accounts, you probably don't. Maybe things are different now. In fact, I think you're encouraged in a game account now to put some what old timers would say editorializing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because by now it used to be there's a good chance nobody saw the game. And so they were finding out what happened through your report. But now everybody's seen the game, so they want to see, go ahead and tell me what happened. But also you have more freedom to put in your thoughts.
Yeah.
So be yourself when you're writing. Be yourself. Take some license, to put in your thoughts, but I would encourage you to always base them in fact, because I think that's the biggest regression in media today is people will report things, reporters will report things that aren't factual and with nothing to back it up. And as an example, I'll tell you again, people don't want to hear this. The guy that last year said it, Texas A&M spent $30 million on their and people bought it. And coaches accepted that as fact. Other media did. And I'm telling you, it doesn't matter how much I take. That's ludicrous. But, people bought into it. Then you say, well, where do you get that information? What? And no one ever had a answer. Well, it just is. So I would encourage you to know your subject matter. Don't try to tell somebody that follows football. They're reading your article about football. If you don't know it, don't try to act like you do, because they can spot an imposter from a mile away.
Yeah.
So know your subject matter, know your facts, and then put in your add your personality or your thoughts. But make sure whatever you have, whatever your thoughts are, you can back it up with facts, because somebody will always question.
Yeah, that's William. I mean, that's home run advice. And speaking of that, Olin, I like it. Trust but verify. I mean, people, and they'll say unnamed sources. You can carry that one as far as you want. But A&M this year, and William, you got to think that, and Bo knows this. Olin's office door, William, opens onto the football practice fields there at College Station. Almost. Okay, but he's very close. But
we're across the street.
Yeah, across the street. But you work with Billy Lucci and some incredible people at TexAgs.com. What is going on spring practice? You've got, I'm sure it's a pretty cool story. Bobby Petrino's there. You think him and Jimbo Fisher, I mean, Jimbo's been successful his whole career, but hit a wall last year, and any number of reasons. I mean, this year, maybe people are not going to talk so much about A&M. They may win, go 11-1, 12-0. Who knows? But give us the current state of the program, because all I know is Bobby Petrino fixes things faster than about 99% of offensive minds I've ever seen.
Well, I think it's a good thing when your folks up at Arkansas were upset that Bobby Petrino's going to Texas A&M. I think that's a good thing. You want to see people that are your rivals not like things that are going on, because that's a good thing. As far as what's going on in spring football, and William, there's something to take advice from. We don't know, because as reporters, we don't get to go into spring practice anymore. Back in the day, we did. So when I write a spring football article, pretty much I said, this is what Jimbo Fisher said. Because I'm not going to write something as fact that I don't see with my own eyes.
Yeah.
Because last year he told us that Haynes King was great, and other people were great and all this, and then you get there and you said, well, had I been able to actually see this with my own eyes, maybe I would question that. Right?
Yeah.
So never, only trust your own eyes. I mean, you can have a good relationship. Don't call somebody a liar unless you know they're lying.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
But,
hey.
Yes, William.
Yeah. Could you tell us anything about Walter Nolan, the defensive lineman?
Walter Nolan has, first of all, he's changed numbers. He's from 88 to number 0. Everybody wants to have that single-digit number now if you're a lineman. And supposedly he's taken off about 20 pounds. And what we're told is he's moving better, and he's bigger. I mean, he's not heavier, but bigger, if that makes sense. The a year and a half in a good college development program, weight and nutrition can really change the way your body looks. But to me, when you see them run out in their shorts to work out or in the shells, I can't look at them and say, okay, this guy, look how much better he looks. He should look good if you're playing at this level.
Yeah.
But I think that it's very routine to expect a guy to get better as a in a second year. I mean, it doesn't always happen, but it usually does. And I think last year you had guys like Walter Nolan and L.T. Overton and Shamar Stewart, 5-star guys, and they were talented. The talent was there, but I don't care how talented are you. You're 19 years old, and you're going against a grown man in the Southeastern Conference who's been developed by SEC caliber coaches and weight trainers and all this for 2, 3, and 4 years. You're at a disadvantage. I think what you're going to see this year from Walter Nolan is a guy that is putting the natural talent with growth and more strength and more quickness. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if he has a breakout year this season.
Yeah. I mean, we remember him, William and I do. He was at St. Benedict briefly, went over to Knoxville to a Powell school over there. I know Jeremy Pruitt identified this guy, and I think he's one of the smartest defensive minds in the country, Olin and Bo and William. He won. I think he has incredible upside. Bo Carter, jumping in. We got just a few minutes left. But this is, man, that's great stuff about Texas A&M. William, you see the difference when there's the narrative that a lot of people push out there, and then there's a truth broker. If you ask Olin Buchanan, does this dress make me look fat? He may step back 20 feet away from you and say, you betcha. And,
no, I say, Rob, what the hell are you doing wearing a dress?
There we go. I thought maybe my Grizzlies hat, go Grizz, go Bears. But Bo, jump in here with Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com. I love this conversation because it's true. It's great.
Real quickly, it's an honor to be with Olin, one of my favorite sports writers. Always the thing about Olin, he keeps everything in perspective and he keeps a good humorous bent on everything. You can't take it. We don't ever take it too seriously, like it's life or death. It's just sports. It's just sports. But quick one, Olin talking about the imaginary conversation with Bob Stoops. Skip Bayless, when he was at the Vanderbilt school paper, William, they used to have things called pay telephones, and there was one in the lobby of every dormitory in Reston's Hall. And he did a fake thing about Alabama's basketball team, and they were handing the phone off to each other the week before Vanderbilt and Alabama played for the SEC basketball championship. And unfortunately, he used some street language that probably shouldn't have been in the paper, got suspended for about a week. But it was one of it's just like the Bob Stoops story. It was really a great fiction piece with a little bit of fact mixed in there. So,
but when I want to make fun of the Texas Longhorns, I have my fictitious character, my friend Longhorn John. I say he has his dog's name Earl. He has a cat named Major, and and his ex-wife kind of looked like Nobis.
That's true.
Oh my God!
Don't take it too seriously, William. There's a lot of fun in sports. That's the best part about it.
Well, why are we doing it if it's not fun, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is true. Oh, and Texas A&M, people go out there and they're blown away by the facilities, the investment and all. And with Texas coming into the league now, A&M's been recruiting at a really high clip year after year. Texas, they're always going to get their players and all, but what is A&M concerned about? Are they worried about Texas, or are they more myopic and saying, let's just make A&M better? We can't control what Texas does.
That's what they're doing. What can we do at A&M? In fact, if you were in our office right now, you could look out the window and see this massive football complex they're building now. So they can put everything that you want in football with your program all under one roof. And it's going to be done in about a year and a half. And it's going to be as pristine and plush as any place in the country, and better than most, and equal to the very best. Maybe Oregon, maybe it's not going to be better with what they have in Oregon or Alabama, but it's going to be as good as anybody. It's going to be amazing. So they put a great investment. Last year was a setback for various reasons, but it doesn't matter what the reasons are. You're supposed to be better than 5-7. You're supposed to be at a time when you should be expecting 10 wins every year.
Yeah.
And you had a bad year. So and it affected recruiting. But what you do is you see if all those. I mean, there was a game where A&M started 5 true freshmen just on offense last year. So you get to the point where you say, hey, are these puppies now dogs? Are they ready to, to chase you and bite you? And if they are, then you think that there's a good chance that A&M can make a quick rebound. And they lost 5 games last year by 6 points or less.
Yeah.
And that's why Bobby Petrino's here, because they had they were 101st in the nation in scoring offense. Well, in theory, and we know this is oversimplifying things, but in theory, if you can add that touchdown, if Bobby Petrino can come in here and work with Jimbo Fisher and together they can come up with a way to add that one touchdown, you're 10-2. You're not that far away. Again, I'm oversimplifying things. So if there's Arkansas or Auburn fans that may be listening and say, oh, yeah, those people in Texas. I get it. I'm oversimplifying. But in 2011, A&M lost a whole bunch of really close games, usually lost the second half after having a big lead at halftime. And they didn't have a lot of leadership, didn't have a lot of seniors. The next year, with 10 offensive starters returning, they went 11-2.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll have the same kind of bounce back. You can't take it for granted, but you can sure look at it and see a possibility.
Yeah. Look, we have unfortunately run out of time, folks. I want Olin to sign out and let people know how we can follow him. But in God we trust. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. If you don't like it, swap places, travel. I kiss the ground every time I come back in this great country. And next time you see some servicemen out in public or a priest, buy them around every 5-10 minutes. Keep them coming as long as they're standing. Olin, tell people how they can follow you. And also, I want to take a moment to say thank you so much for being on here with us. I always love it, but also for spending time talking to William, because I think William's over there learning some stuff. But you've got a great site for people to follow, not just the Texas A&M Aggies, but college football and a lot of good life stories and lessons as well.
Well, thank you for that. First of all, any country that Bo Carter lives in, that's where I want to live. Now,
by God.
Now, listen, we'd appreciate it if you would, if you're interested in Texas A&M sports, and even if you're not, if you'd give us a look at texags.com. What do I always say, Rob? It's just an abbreviated version of Texas Aggies. That's texags.com. You can follow us at Twitter at texags.com, and you can even follow me on Twitter at Olin Buchanan. I don't hide behind a pseudonym or a handle. I am who I am. So if you want to give me a follow, I'd appreciate it. It's Olin Buchanan. If you can spell my name, you can follow me.
There you go. Hey, I love it. Everybody go out and make something great happen. Thanks to all of our guests and all of our listeners. We're out of here. See you tomorrow. Have a great day.